Welcome back to episode 138 of Tall Boy Radio. Although, if Gaz had had his way last week, we would be calling it Trendy Boy Radio. We're joined by a guest this week, who we will get to shortly. But first, let's get the two regular hosts and find out what beer it is that they're drinking this week.
Yeah, thanks for that intro, Ad, I think. I'm drinking a little 8% bottle of absolute delightfulness. Mr. Schoof, the little gnome. And just in case that goes, and I say this every week in case it goes, but we know it's going to go. I've then got a Gamma Ray. A couple of beers. I think I had Schoof last week, a couple of weeks ago. I've had Gamma Ray for ages. So looking forward to this. Always enjoy having guests on our podcast. So no idea where it's going to go. A couple of left turns along the way. Let's see where we end up.
Absolutely. Andrew?
Howdy. I'm on the old left, my last bottle that I was given. Hey. Yeah, I have a few beers. Cheers.
Good man. Now, the beer I am drinking tonight is made by Wild Child Brewing Co., and it is called Opaque Reality. So this is a kind of beer that Gaz would absolutely hate. It is a mango and passion fruit milkshake IPA. Those are words you don't want to read on your beer, aren't they, dude?
Yeah, the mango, passion fruit, yeah. IPA, okay. I'll take an IPA. But mango,
milkshake?
Passion, nah.
I thought that was a bit you like. So before we get to a guest, I just want to give a quick shout out to Johnny Simo, who is a friend of ours who is starting his own podcast. So obviously you'll know him from co-hosting the Toddcast with Todd Orndorff, and he is starting his own podcast called the Mountaineer Outdoorsman Podcast. How do I know? Because he phoned me at 1:30 in the morning while testing his Skype. Cheers, Johnny.
And we look forward to guesting on your new podcast whenever you're ready for us to come on and cause absolute mayhem.
Absolutely. There's nothing mountaineery or outdoorsman about us, but we'll gladly come on and cause chaos.
If there was a podcast that absolutely just didn't relate to us in any way whatsoever, it would be that. So
yeah. Talking of things then that don't relate to us and things that we know very little about, we're joined by a guest. We're joined by Lily. And we're going to be talking about, am I right in saying witchcraft and Wicca, as opposed to white witchcraft?
Yes, I'd say so. Maybe more on the whole witchcraft side of things than Wicca, I would say. But yes, definitely.
Cool. So what's the difference then? For the uninitiated, which is most definitely us? What's the difference between Wicca and witchcraft?
So I know a lot more about witchcraft than Wicca. So witchcraft is more like your typical spell work, magic, that side of thing that you'd associate with like witches and stuff. Whereas Wicca, it's more of like a religion, I would say. I want to make sure I like get all my terminology right in case someone comes and like thingy. But Wicca is more like a modern pagan religion. I can't remember who it was founded by. I think he was called maybe Gerald Gardner, I want to say. And it kind of like is based more on nature, and there isn't like with like other religions how you have like the Bible and stuff. There isn't really like any like set guides or anything you have to go by. So it's more, I want to say, down to your own sort of like interpretation, but everyone kind of has like their own, there's like certain rules that everyone kind of like agrees with, but they're not like, you don't have to live by them, if that makes sense.
Okay. So yeah, I had read that like Wiccan religion or what have you was similar or a branch of paganism, but I'd always associated the two together. I always thought the two went hand in hand, so that's quite interesting. Did you guys know the difference?
No, considering I messaged you about 5 minutes before. So what's the difference? Thanks for stitching me up there, Anne.
I thought you might have Googled it in the meantime.
No, it's weird because back in the day, I mean, I'm getting on a bit now, but you know, I suppose white witchcraft and Wicca were something that a couple of the sort of girls, and that's awfully stereotypical, I don't mean it to be that way at all, but a couple of the girls in our year at school were sort of, you know, Wicca and just starting to mention it, and then it seems like 20 years later, which is now, you know, quite a few more people are sort of talking about it. Now, I genuinely am a bit like Adam. I'm a bit of a dinosaur, so I didn't really know the difference. I mean, Andy is a good 2 years younger than us, so you know, look at him laughing. You know, so he might be more in touch with the sort of the youth of today's stuff. But is it more of a youthful sort of culture, or is it? Do you get quite a lot of sort of aging people that sort of deal with it as well?
I don't know. I feel like, so with paganism, it's kind of like a umbrella term sort of thing. So you have like Norse pagans, all like loads of different types, and they all kind of like, I don't know, I don't want to say worship, but they kind of like follow certain paths. Whereas, I don't know, I feel like Wicca, they say it's like a new-ish religion, but it's not that new. I think it may be like around the 1900s, maybe.
Right. Okay.
So like, there are a considerable amount of like witches emerging like nowadays. I think it's like exploded quite a bit recently, but there are very much like older generations that dabble in it too. I'd say it's kind of just there's loads of ages that people.
So I mean, obviously what I see a lot is what we see on TV and things like that. So when you look at, and I don't know whether you get it, a discovery of witches, would that be witches? Would that be Wicca? How does that work? Is that, have you heard of that? Because that's a series that we see over here. So I don't know.
What do you mean by like discovery?
So Discovery of Witches is a was it HBO or was it a Sky TV series, and it talked and it's a series to do with and now excuse my ignorance, witchcraft.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether or not, and I was unsure as to which element was it witchcraft, was it white witchcraft, was it Wicca, was it a combination of all the above?
With with Wicca, like not everyone classes themselves as witches, if that makes sense. So you could believe in like the Wiccan religion, but you don't necessarily have to practice witchcraft.
Okay.
Whereas if you're a witch, you could have literally nothing to do with Wicca.
Right, okay.
At the same time, you can have stuff to do with it.
Yeah.
Like, witchcraft is kind of like, it's separate, but at the same time, like intertwined with Wicca. It's like a blurred line, but you don't necessarily have to do one to do the other.
Right, okay.
That's interesting. Well, one of the things that we see you share a lot then on your Instagram page is the different spells and incantations and stuff. So this is things like this. I've got to be honest, always absolutely fascinate me because again, it's not something I know an awful lot about. And I think when we look at the different levels of belief on the supernatural and things that we have between the three of us. Certainly, myself and Gaz would put ourselves in the curious category. Yeah. And Andy, while curious, is always a little bit apprehensive. So can you tell us then a little bit about the spells and incantations and things that you prepare and you share? Because I've got to be honest with you, the videos are absolutely fantastic.
Honestly, they weren't like that when I first started doing it. They were horrendous. But I don't know. I feel like spells, they can be as like simple or as complex as you want them to be, and like the idea of it is just kind of like manifest the things that you want into your life. So it could just be as simple as like you want a job interview or something, and with that you'd use like herbs and crystals and stuff that associate with jobs and I don't know, like money and that side of things. So like when you're creating a spell, you'd pick like particular herbs and stuff that correspond with what you want to gain. So like it could be as easy as like, I think bay leaves very much like relate to like manifestation and stuff. So if you wanted, I don't know, for example, an X amount of money to come to your life, you could just like burn a bay leaf, but on the bay leaf you'd write how much you want to bring into your life. Okay. So it could be as simple as that. And like I think I read the other day, maybe, like just as simple as like blowing out your candles on your birthday, and making a wish is like a form of witchcraft, but people don't know about it. And it's same with like when you don't, is it like when you touch wood or knock on wood? That's like another form of it, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't exactly know where it's completely stemmed from, so I can't really like comment on it that much. But I don't know, spells can be like as complex and or as simple as you make them, as long as you're picking ingredients and like specific coloured candles and stuff that will match what you want to like manifest. You can do it how you want.
And obviously, I've seen on your website as well that you obviously sell some of these sort of pre-made things, or you sell the spell. Are they, excuse my ignorance, are they really popular?
I think they're like the most popular thing I've actually sold on my website. I've got ones for like different manifestations, but like spell jars, like they work on. I wouldn't say they work on their own. I feel like you need to actually do something to help promote them. So, like, say if you're wanting an X amount of money, you can't really just buy the spell jar and then sit on your ass for God knows how long, not do anything to get that money, if that makes sense. So, like, if you can get the spell jar and it kind of like open up the doors to help bring money in, but you have to kind of work for it at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so do you think a lot of it is your belief then in it, in terms of what you're putting out there, in terms of your belief is part of the is part of really what makes it happen?
I think so. I feel like I don't know, like no one knows whether like there's actual any like scientific evidence behind it or anything, or whether it's purely just like a placebo effect.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, you kind of got to be in it to win it, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know. I feel like if you believe in it, then if you believe in something, then it's going to happen. But if you just get it and you don't believe in it, or you think it's a pile of crap, I don't know, and it's not going to do anything.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot to be said for belief. We had a vicar on actually a couple of weeks ago,
Okay.
and ultimately that is obviously, as you well know, with any form of religion, belief is a huge part of it, and that's the interesting. And for me, it's fascinating. Like Gaz is a man of science. He's a teacher. Andy works in. Well, I don't really know what Andy does for a living. To be honest, he's told me a few times. I don't really understand it, but. And I do whatever it is that I actually do. I'm not entirely sure. And we sort of deal a little bit in facts. So whenever belief comes into play, I'm always intrigued by it because it takes a certain leap of faith. So and that's probably what interests me most in terms of when you say that Wicca and witchcraft, in some ways, well, in a lot of ways, although the lines are blurred, there's some people who practice both, are actually separate. So. Belief is a large part then when you're putting those spells together. What would be some of the most popular incantations then on your website, or the ones that most people will contact you about?
I'd want to say like money spells, like spell jars, protection ones. I want to say love spell jars as well, but at the same time, I don't like doing anything that will go against someone's will. So I don't want to like cross into that territory because the last thing I want is karma coming back to bite me on the arse. But I don't know, it's interesting because like I have like a background in science as well. So I did a master's and a bachelor of science in zoology. So like the fact that I kind of like believe it as well, but at the same time, I kind of want to stay in like the scientific side as well. Like I don't know. There's so many different things that people come to me for. Like some of them I'm a bit like, can't really do that. But then like asking for like the impossible, but then other times it's just like I said, like money spells or success with businesses, or what else have I had? Honestly, there's a list. I should have made a list beforehand. But anything you can imagine.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So Gaz, then you're after a spell. What are you after? What's the incantation you're looking for? Gaz loves it when I put him on the spot.
Yeah,
me.
thanks for that.
Always throw him under the bus first. Give Andy a little bit of time to think.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think everybody wants their 6 lucky numbers to come up, don't they? So so anything to do with not necessarily fame, but certainly fortune. I think everybody could do with a couple of extra bucks here or there. You know what I mean? So I think I mean I'm just interested in terms of how successful. This is going to sound really patronising. I don't mean it to be at all in that way. But the people that come to you, is it somebody that comes to you because they want assistance in an area of their life that they feel you can help them with, or is it not quite a flight of fancy, but some, like for me, for example, if I said, right, Lily, can you give me the 6 winning lottery numbers, or can you give me an incantation that can predict this, that, and the other, or is it more them wanting to feel a certain way or emote in a certain way, or like? I suppose I'm thinking, who are the type of people that are they lost souls effectively? Are they people that want support in their life, or what are the type of people that would come to you?
I don't know. I feel like just anyone maybe who's more like inclined in the whole like witchcraft side of things, or like wanting some extra support or something that like they couldn't necessarily get without witchcraft. I don't really know. Like, say if
Like
you
a
were saying
kindred
with
spirit
like
type thing, so somebody that believes that has a similar philosophy, and you get a collective sort of group that self-support and support each other along the way. Is that?
I feel like definitely people who have some like are inclined with the whole spiritual side of things would come to me rather than someone who just does not believe it in the slightest, because then there's like no point sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I'd say when you're saying with like the winning lottery numbers, I wouldn't say I'd ever be able to predict them at all. I'm not,
because hell,
like,
it'd be popular if you could do that. I'll be honest with you.
oh my gosh, imagine. But I'd be doing it all the time. But like, if you do it more so like you'd ask like for an X amount of money to come into your life, like you wouldn't do it like I want to win it through the lottery with these numbers. You kind of do it like in a more of a generalized sort of way. Right. So what you could do is you could create like a money bowl, which is like made up of like different ingredients that relate to bringing wealth and abundance into your home, and you'd either like put it by your front door, so it like welcome money into your home that way, or say if like content creation and stuff, you need like a lot of creativity and stuff with that side of things. So say when you're making a money bowl or a mini spell jar, you'd use ingredients that relate to creativity and that you'd want money to come in through that way. But I wouldn't say there's like any particular people that want it over others. To be honest, I don't really know like people's situations and why they come to me and stuff. I don't want to get.
No, I'm just, I was just curious as to how much maybe you would look at them, or they would come to you for a particular reason, or is it a general sort of following as such and a collaborative?
Yeah, I think it'd just be more people just that are actually like interested in the witchy spiritual side of things, because I feel like if people aren't interested or slightly I don't know, like thing by it, then they just wouldn't. I don't think they'd even bother. There's no point if they don't like believe in it either.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And the other thing, obviously, this is very readily available on your website, is crystals and things like that. Can you tell us a little bit about crystals and the effect that they have on the human body and mind, or what have you, or why you would ever use them?
So like crystals are meant to have like healing properties and stuff, and obviously they're like thousands and thousands of years old, and they're like most of them are naturally made, but like they'd hold like certain energies. But at the same time, like they say that they're meant to have healing properties, but with me having like a scientific background, I don't like. You kind of got to use science at the same time. Like I wouldn't replace, say, if I had like a really severe health condition, I'd still rely on modern medicine instead of just the crystal. But if you use both at the same time, then it might amplify it and make things better.
Yeah.
Like different crystals have different properties. So like say with amethyst, it's meant to relieve stress and anxiety. And then again, I don't know whether it's another placebo thing. I'd like to think it definitely isn't, but at the same time, you don't really know, do you? So I think carrying like amethyst or rose quartz or something on you, it's kind of like a gentle reminder just to either like stay calm or help you stay calm throughout the day. But I think there's crystal for absolutely everything you could imagine. But yeah.
So birthstones and things like that. So when you're born in a certain month, and I forget which one amethyst is for, it might be February. I might have made that up. What is that related to that sort of thing as well?
I'd say so. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know an awful lot about like zodiacs and everything and astrology. I need to actually do some more research on it because I get people asking me all the time, and I'm like, I don't know. I need to research it. But like crystals, certain crystals are associated with different birth, like so with birth, what's called month that you're born, it would obviously fall into like the zodiac categories. So say if Sagittarius, I don't know what the birth, what is it? Might be turquoise, I want to say. That it like relates to it that way. So more like on the zodiac and astrology side of things rather than the actual month.
Yeah, cool.
I want to say. I don't know an awful lot about.
I went to a wedding, funnily enough, a couple of years ago, and it was my cousin's daughter's wedding, and it was down in Beaconsfield Way. One of the things they asked us to bring was a crystal to bring to the wedding because it was sort of like a pagan sort of festival that was performed in their garden and what have you. So they did the thing where they bound their arms together and things like that. So I took turquoise, funnily enough, as you mentioned that, because there is a history of Native Americans in the family, and so obviously that's an important gem to them. So I took that. One of the things that we did on arrival outside the house, they had a huge bowl of sage burning. So that's something when you hear about. I think when we spoke to, what was her name? Gina, wasn't it, from Florida, from Miami, and she was a witch hunter. She talked about saging the property as well, didn't she? Is that something? Is sage something that you would regularly use?
Yeah, I'd say so. Like, there's quite a bit of like, I don't want to say controversy with using sage, but like some people say that white sage is purely like a closed practice, and there's other types of sage, just like your English garden sage, which is what I use because I don't want to get involved in the controversial side of things. But I'd say I definitely use it. It's meant to like remove like any negative energies within your home, sort of thing. There's also Palo Santo as well, which is like a type of fragrance wood, I think it is, which kind of does a similar thing. Like you can use any sort of herbs to cleanse an area, but like each herb has like a different meaning. So I can't think of any off the top of my head, but like you'd use a certain one for a certain thing, but sage is definitely like the most common one people use, I'd say.
Oh, fair play. What about yourself, guys? Have you ever saged a property?
No.
Have you ever come across anything like? Have either of you two guys ever come across anything like that? Because I must admit, I found it interesting. I found it peculiar at the same time.
Yeah.
I've been to. I used to work near Stonehenge, and these like summer solstice and winter solstice and all that, and used to be people running around with, I'm guessing, sage and stuff like all lit and stuff.
Yeah.
There's other like products on fire as well, like but no, they're like running around and like going around in circles and stuff like that. And I didn't understand it at the time. I was only a young little boy, but it's quite. I don't know. It's quite interesting. I think my missus sometimes does like incense stuff, and it's sort of it's obviously not sage and stuff like that, but sort of just invokes that. That smells like a bit of a memory of. I don't know. I wouldn't say it clears my house or anything, but I don't know. Sometimes I like the smell. It just reminds me of. I don't know. Christmas or something.
I feel like, yeah. With incense, you can pretty much do the same with that as well. So, like, you can use incense to cleanse your home and stuff. So, just depends on what flavour.
I do get the, I get that certain smells, certain sensations, certain senses can invoke reactions or memories or sort of feelings that you might have, or a sense of calm or whatever it may be. So I sort of get, I get that, and obviously, you hear people, they'll burn incense, and you go in, it's quite a sort of a calm, relaxing atmosphere. So I absolutely, I sort of get that side of it. For somebody who I think believes in sort of, I say, ghost, poltergeist, afterlife, and all that, I struggle a little bit to sort of come to terms with incantations and spells and how that will affect you. I think that's where I'm at. So I think, and I know I'd mentioned earlier, yes, I'm possibly more onto this side of believing as opposed to not believing as such, and Andy is not believing, and me and Ad are sort of somewhere the other side. But I sort of struggle more, I think, with the spells and the incantations and how that affects you, influences you, and I sort of feel as though I sort of believe what I see or what I feel, and without me having experienced that, I'm struggling to see how that might work. Yeah. If that's even fair. I mean, obviously, if I spent some time with you and you would, we spent some time together, and I was able to feel something or emote something or perceive something, I might then be like, oh wow, yeah, absolutely, I'm sold, So I think that's where I'm at the moment.
I think it's just a matter of like trying things. So like, say if you did a spell that was like related to motivation and stuff, like you could do the spell, and then after you might find that you do feel more motivated to actually get on and do things. Or say if you created like a motivation spell jar, you could put it on your desk whilst you work, and like every time you're working, you look at that spell jar, it just reminds you to stay motivated. I think it's just a matter of maybe just giving it a go. But obviously you've got to be open to the idea that it works, because I feel like if you just went,
because I suppose the skeptic is, well, that could be myriad other things, not the incantation or the spell that so I suppose you have to be open and susceptible to at least acknowledging that there's a potential that it might be the spell or the incantation that's doing that and making you feel a certain way.
I feel like I don't know, you like do a spell as long as you go in with the idea that you don't want to harm anyone or cause any harm or anything, then you've kind of not really got anything to lose. So, like, even it could just be like as simple as lighting a candle and just taking some time to meditate whilst that candle's burning, and just like concentrating on what you want to manifest, and then it might just like shift your mindset a little bit. That would then help. I don't know. I think you should give it a go.
I think that's solid advice, to be honest with you. Maybe, Gaz, that's something that perhaps we should look at doing in a later episode, that we could do these things. We could perform a few spells each. Lord knows what Andy would perform. I think probably something closer to devil worship. But we could perform a spell, especially yourself, who is skeptic about these things. And if you go into it wholeheartedly with the thought that literally there is nothing that I can lose by doing this, and there's no harm that can be done, and just see if it does make a difference, would that be something that we could do in a later episode, do you think, dude?
Yeah, I mean, you know me, I'm pretty open to suggestions, and I've got a pretty open philosophy on things. I think on the spectrum of, do you believe in witchcraft, wizardry, afterlife, ghosts, life after death, and all that? as opposed to not. I think I'm more towards yes, I do, just because we've spoken on previous podcasts, haven't we, about various experiences and stuff that I've had. So I think I'm relatively enough open-minded to think, yeah. I just wonder, I worry that other people might say, who perhaps aren't as open-minded, maybe say, oh well that's happened because of that. It's not the spell. It's that, and it's. And this can sound awfully patronising, and again, I don't mean it to be. It's real world things that has made that happen, as opposed to the spell or the incantation that. Does that make sense? And people maybe attribute other things. So if I was all of a sudden to do a something that would bring money into me or whatever it may be, that people say, well, it's because of this. You've got this, or you've gained this, or this has happened, which has meant that you've got more money. Whereas,
but then again, maybe if you didn't do the spell, then maybe none of that would have happened. Yes. Exactly.
And I think that's the nub, isn't it? That's the do you believe in that, and that has an impact on you, or a potential impact on you, or not? And I think potentially me and Adam might be that. Whereas I think Andy would be, oh no, it's not that, it's something else. On the sort of continuum of Andy's over here and me and Adam are maybe over here somewhere. I don't know.
I feel like maybe you kind of gotta. I don't really know. It's difficult, isn't it, to like try and like. Yeah. But then again, say if you wanted more money into your life, right, and you did a spell at the start of the month, then maybe instead of actually bringing X amount of money in that you asked for, maybe it's just opening the doors and giving you the opportunities that allow for that money to come in. Yeah. Does that make sense? So say if like, I don't know, you get offered
a promotion or a different job career or something like that, and you might attribute that.
So like that.
Yeah. No, I get that.
And I think what we said about earlier, we had Richard Pollard on, who was a reverend who actually Gaz and I went to school with. What he talked about as well is very similar to that sort of thing. It's about belief, and you could sort of attribute it to when someone gets down on their hands and knees and prays to God and prays to Jesus, that actually it isn't Jesus or God coming into their life and making that influence. It is real world things. Now, this is exactly the same sort of thing. What the way it's delivered may seem a real world way, but it's that belief that sometimes leaves you open to it. That's certainly. Yeah. I think belief is a very, very powerful thing, and this is probably why I'm more inclined to believe in things like this and believe in different religions. I've been fascinated by religion for a long, long time, and this fascinates me in the same way that religion fascinates me as well. The same way that Buddhism fascinates me as well, in terms of it not necessarily really being an actual deity that we're looking there. So one thing that does interest me as well, and we're getting a little bit away from incantations and what have you, is one of my favourite films is American Werewolf in London. You know, in the Slaughtered Lamb, they have the pentacle painted on a wall. So you have the star. Is it a pentacle or a pentacast?
So there's pentacle and pentagram. The difference between the two is that the pentacle has the circle around it, right, and then the pentagram is without the circle. So they get like a bad rep, as in like it's related to like Satanism, and which I don't think, I haven't really looked into it, but I don't think Satanism is like evil religion or anything. I think it's just misunderstood. But like with like devil worshipping and all that sort of stuff, each like point represents a different element. So it's more of a symbol that symbolizes things such as like earth, air, water, fire, and the spirit. And then the circle round it, if I remember correctly, is represents like infinity. So it's kind of like just how it's basically like it represents like the universe and the elements. Like it's got nothing to do with devil worshipping or anything. So I think that's why like Wiccans mainly wear it, because it obviously is related to nature, and that's basically what the religion is like based around. So
yeah,
that's basically.
I had to ask that because, like you say, I thought it is obviously the common association whenever you see someone, like I said, which is why I mentioned American World for London and the two tourists from America getting spooked when they go into this pub in Yorkshire.
Yeah.
I've always thought this anyway, just as a slight aside, I've always thought this about the devil. He gets a bad rap. And don't get me wrong, there's some bad things he's attributed to him. But it's a man who's, or a man or a being or whatever he is, who's dedicated his life to punishing the guilty. It doesn't sound that bad to me. You know what I mean? He's got some redeeming qualities, doesn't he?
Yeah, but the biggest trick the devil ever pulled was convince the world he didn't exist. You see, that's, you know.
Well, so they say. So they say. So, Gaz mentioned the paranormal as well. I'd just be interested to get your opinions on that. It's I don't know. I don't want to go too far down the old Halloween-y route here, but when you think about witchcraft and you think about other things like that, so spectral apparitions, ghosts, and stuff like that, is that something that is either linked to it or something that you personally believe in?
I don't know. I feel like I want to believe in like the paranormal, but I've never personally had any like experience with it. Apart from one time, I can't remember. I think I was on, was it PGL? So with school, we stayed in this big, massive like mansion thing, and I can't remember what it was. I think I had one of those like disposable cameras, and I accidentally took a photo of like the room. I don't know how I took it, but then when it came to getting the photo developed, it looked like there was like a hand and a person in the corner of the photo. Like, oh, even now it just creeps me out just thinking about it.
Well, that's weird because we've had some people, previous podcasts, that would absolutely 100% say that was something. And we've had various people sort of talk about photos and things that they've seen in photos, and without treading over old podcasts and sort of, you know, obviously Adam Bow mentioned, was it Bow mentioned sort of a photo and something that they gave to you, or you see that, and I'm not saying it was quite unexplained, but there was something that when they took the photo they didn't realise was there, and then they developed the photos out. Oh, God, I don't remember that sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? So
it was literally like I want to say the corner of the dorm room, and honestly I've got like the picture ingrained in my head because I think it just creeped me out so much. Like it was like a white hand, and then I think I ended up throwing the photo. I was like, I do not want to keep this on me just in case.
Get rid of that.
Yeah, but like I don't know, I want to believe in it. I feel like with witchcraft, so Halloween is also known as Samhain, which is time of year where like the veil between our world and I want to say the spirit world is at its thinnest. So that's when you get you're more likely to experience paranormal activities and stuff. But I don't know, I've never really experienced anything. I feel like I'd like to, because maybe at the minute I live in my old granddad's house, so it'd be nice to maybe have him come visit, but at the same time I feel like it might freak me out, so I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you a story, actually. Obviously, I forward on the notes to you, and you probably would have read in there. There's this noted down story, North Wales. So my uncle lives not too far from me, but he also has a holiday home in North Wales. I think it's Morfa way. And one of the things that they said about the house when they bought it was the lady who they bought it from, who had passed away, or so they bought it, you know, as it got into like from their estate, was they described her as white witch, so you would probably say a witch, and was very sort of famous around the village because it's only a very small area. So they sort of redeveloped the place massively so that it could be used as a holiday cottage. But in the window there was a stack of stones that this lady had supposedly placed there that nobody moved, that the locals had said, look, seriously, leave them there. They're there. It's protecting the house. Don't mess around with them. They're there for a reason. So my uncle thought, well, I don't necessarily buy into all that kind of thing, but I am going to leave it out there out of respect. and you know, this is probably about 20 years ago that he bought this place, and those stones are still sat there now in that exact same pattern that they were left in. Now, me and my wife went and stayed there, many, many, many moons ago, and we'd heard a few stories about how this place could be potentially haunted. So on the day that we first arrived, my auntie was still there, and she was handed over the key to us. So she stayed that night and then went off in the morning. But she was relating this story about the previous resident, how she'd been a white witch and how she was famous. And the other thing that she was famous for was that she was the village bike, which obviously not a very complimentary thing to say about someone. And at this point where she was saying this, and this was quite late at night, there was this huge thud against the front door. I mean, literally, like someone had gone and kicked it as hard as they could, and it's literally in the middle of nowhere. So we rushed to the door, and it was silent.
I found the bike.
Yeah, there was nobody about, and I tell you what, it spooked the bejesus out of us. And that whole week that we were there, we always felt like there was somebody there with us. And like there's one point I'd nipped down to the local shop, which was sort of 5-10 minute walk away. I left the wife there, and I think she was doing the dishes. And when I came back, she was still facing the same way because she didn't dare turn around. She was convinced there was somebody there behind her.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I feel like it makes you think, like, because like, I can't remember, I think we went on a family holiday and we stayed there. I can't remember what the place was called. It was meant to be like one of the most haunted places in the UK. I think it was Devon Way or something. But I don't know whether, like, if I didn't go to the place with the idea that it was the most haunted place ever, then maybe I'd have just like treated it just like a normal place to stay. And I feel like I don't know, personally, if someone tells me it's haunted, I feel like I'm going to be constantly on edge, like listening for something to happen.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether it's that, whether if someone just didn't tell you it was haunted, and then for you to then find out all these like weird things to happen, I feel like maybe I'd be more inclined for the paranormal side of things. But I don't know.
Yeah. Funnily enough, that is some research that's been done. So they were taking guided tours of a building, and half the people they took around, they told it was haunted. The other half, they didn't mention anything of it. And the people who they said nothing to, funnily enough, had no experiences on their way around. Whereas the people who were told had a number of experiences, saw things that they couldn't explain and that kind of thing. So I think there is that idea, if you implant it in your mind. And actually, to be fair, when we say that goes back to a little bit about what we're talking with spells and incantations. That by having it there in your mind, by placing it there in your mind, it can change your perception.
Yeah.
So we already know that if it can change your mindset just by having a belief.
I feel like your mind is like the most like powerful thing. Like if you can just like control, like, I don't know. I definitely get what you mean with like it being like implanted in your brain. Because I know if I was walking around some haunted house and someone told me it was haunted, I'd be like trying to look for things.
Yeah, you'd be looking out for stuff, wouldn't you? You'd be like, oh, that's this and that's that and that's that, and actually it isn't. And I suppose you want not a clear mind and stuff, but you want if something's going to happen or you're going to experience something, you want then for you to experience it without any preconceived sort of notions or anything else.
Yeah. Without anything like puts like the idea in your head, so you can kind of go without like. You go with no like influences or anything.
It's weird because we spoke about doing a podcast in what was that place in Macclesfield? Was it the
Bates Hall?
Yes, there. And it's funny because even though we perhaps know that it's haunted and one of the most haunted places in the country, that me and Adam would be like, oh my god, did you see that? And Andy would be like, yeah, it's just a curtain fluttering, dude. Like it isn't anything. Me and Adam would be like, oh my god, and there's your two different sort of philosophies. And Andy, who doesn't usually believe necessarily, he'd be like, dude, that's obviously a window open somewhere. It's just a curtain fluttering. Whereas me and Adam, who maybe are slightly more open or have experienced things, we'd be like, oh, dude, like, did you hear that? Did you see that? And neither one of those is right. You sort of want like a neutral playing field. Like you want something to happen to you that you experienced that you had no preconceptions about. So
that you kind of like know for real that actually this stuff does exist. Like it's all right. It's all right. People saying like they've experienced this and this and this, but it's not until like it's kind of like seeing. Like you got to see it to believe it, kind of thing.
Yeah, Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know if I'd want anything to happen to me because I think I'd be paranoid. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I find people are bad enough, let alone like spirits like walking around as well.
Yeah, I don't want to tempt fate.
The real world, let alone the spirit world. Don't want both.
Definitely.
Go on, Andy, because Andy is famously the quiet one of the bunch. But and often we do this, we project our opinions onto him, assuming that he doesn't believe. But given the fact he probably looks the most like our pagan out of the three of us, where do you sit with everything then that we've been talking about today, Andy?
Well, like, I have a few like trains of thought on it. One's like, like they say about dragons, for example, not the dragons don't exist, blah blah blah. But do you think that maybe these are like and witchcraft Norse? Do you think it could have actually, it was common life in like medieval times, whatever? But do you think it's actually a skill that everyone could do, like stuff, spells or whatever? But then it's just over time we've just forgotten them skills, and science isn't like absolute, but everyone's trying to tell you this is the right way, this is the right way. And then a couple of years later, it's like, well, actually, you don't do things that way; it's this way. So I do sometimes sit on the fence and think, like, could these spells be real and actually affect things, or is it, like, say, your mind is such a complex thing that we'll never fully understand it for years and years and years? But could that also be compensating for other stuff? Like when you do like the magic dots, you put like a dot over here on a bit of paper and a dot over here, and your brain just imagines it's there when it's not there and stuff like that. And I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm not a hard. No, I can't tell you say it now. I'm not a hard yes, and I'm not a hard no. I just think if people believe in it, then fair enough. Like I sort of.
Do you not?
I've gone back to the the Chinese like thing of the chi, like spirit energy, and going back to the world and all. I sort of believe in that. I think we are a circle where our bodies go into the earth and people feed on it and all that. We're all like an ecosystem and stuff. But I don't know about spirits and stuff like that. So I think I'll just be a mess in the hole on the floor.
I'm curious, Andy, just what? So, do you think that the modern masses, the present day, whatever, do you think they're not indoctrinated? That's too strong a word, but do you think they're conditioned maybe to not believe in X, Y, and Z, and therefore the masses don't believe in X, Y, and Z, and actually without the
films dictate a lot of people's ideas of stuff in the world. So the pentagram, like you associate that with the devil when when Lily says it's not. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you immediately think that because you've seen it in a film, and maybe it's not hard programming, but it's sort of subtle programming.
So like at the same time, I feel like witchcraft is such like it's gone on for years and years and years and years. Like it's got to have come from somewhere. Like I don't know. I feel like definitely with like it's just like with everything though, isn't it? Like the media and stuff all like want you to picture things in certain ways, and everyone makes their own mind up, whether that's like influenced by something else, I don't know, but like people like the media has made witches, and even like with the Salem witchcraft trials, like they're all based on not like I want to say lies. I don't know. I think they kind of like they picture people, especially with films, like how I don't know. So like
in an evil sort of malevolent sort of and
like.
And that isn't necessarily the case from what you're saying. No. There's lots of positivity to be drawn from it, whereas maybe the mainstream media and all that mainstream films, or they paint it to be quite a malevolent side to life and stuff.
Like, say if you're creating a film, you're going to get more views of like a witch creating curses and everything on people than someone who's just helping someone out for like from the kindness of the heart sort of thing. And I think maybe like the whole misconception that witchcraft is evil and everything, like the number of comments that I get on my Instagram that I just ignore is ridiculous. Like I think it's just people, like with a lot of things, it's like education. Like if you take the time to educate yourself on like the facts and stuff, then you'd be able to change your mind. But at the same time, if you're not willing to listen to anyone else and let them change your mind, then you're going to stick there with that misconception. It's like white people. It's like white people with dreadlocks, but that's a completely different subject.
Well, I will not be egged on to comment on the mainstream media this week. I'm doing my very best to be good, but no, I wholeheartedly agree with you on all of that. But yeah, you're right. Those perceptions are out there, and they're out there for a reason, because it's far more interesting to think about the negatives about that. And so, do you get much negative feedback then? Because we just as an aside, we have like I say, obviously we mentioned Johnny Simo there at the start, and he occasionally gets a lot of negative feedback about his hunting and stuff that he does. And do you know what? He understands it. He understands why people don't appreciate it, don't understand it, and he has his opinions that basically he's feeding himself and he's feeding his family, and that's what he does it for. He doesn't do it for trophy books and what have you. Yeah. So do you get much negative feedback? That's interesting. Then
I think like the number of like comments I get on whether it's like you're worshipping the devil, the only person who can save you is God, and all this sort of stuff, it's ridiculous. But I feel like it's even like, if I've never had anyone come and say it to my face, and I don't think I would, because they probably wouldn't have the balls to do it.
It's true.
But I feel like on like, say like, because I'd sit there and like put them straight if it was in person. But the thing is, with like social media, there's no repercussions from someone sat there like putting a hateful comment. They're just doing it either because they're just being dickheads, or like they don't feel like good about themselves, if that makes sense. Like there's something else behind there. Yeah, or they're like, or I don't know, like the number of like fake accounts that are stealing my content at the minute is ridiculous.
Yeah, I saw that.
If they followed you, ignore them.
I've had a couple of followers actually that have followed me back actually, and I do need to block them just so I can tag the right people into the right posts.
The thing is, like, they're just like, I don't know whether it's jealousy or what, or I don't know. I think the main thing is that posting negative comments on social media, you don't get any repercussions from it, unless like you say something like horrendous. I don't know, but like, there's no repercussions. Like, people can sit there, say whatever they want, and no one will bat an eyelid. So I think that's
a double-edged sword, isn't it? With social media, it gets more knowledge out to people, but on the same thing, there's uneducated people that are, giving negative things to people.
And the thing is, if I turned around and said something back, like I don't want it to then put my like reputation on the line, and know me, if I bite back, then I'd end up getting cancelled. So I don't end up saying anything, because it's just better to not retaliate and just leave them to keep commenting. And at the end of the day, if they're commenting on your posts, it boosts your posts to the Instagram algorithm, so they can comment as much crap as they like. They're boosting my posts. I don't care.
I think we need a few of those on Tallboy Radio. Actually, don't they? Could do us a bit of a favour.
I'll slag you off for that
tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Anything negative you want, that's fine. And if you set up a fake Tallboy Radio account as well, we'll take it. We'll take it as a compliment.
I've just got a bit.
He's frozen. Bless him. He always manages to freeze himself in a perfect position. Look at him there. Beautiful.
Quite well.
Oh, yeah, no, well, this is it. Like I say, the IT teacher is always the one who has the IT problems. So, did you want to tell us, just while Gaz sorts himself out, tell us a little bit then about some of the offerings that you have on your website?
Oh, gosh. When you say offerings, do you mean like the spell jars and stuff that I do? Or?
Yeah. And anything else that you have on offer? Like, if you go on, is it a link tree there that you have? If you click on...
Yes, so I have... I think at the minute with social media, it's like the way things are going is to like spread yourself on as many platforms as possible. So I have recently started a YouTube channel, which I'll be honest, I'm not overly keen on. I don't like being in front of camera. But then I've got a Patreon, which is kind of like more like behind the scenes sort of thing. So they'd pay, I think it's like £3 a month, and it'd just be where I'd like do extra little bits for patrons. So I'd create spells just for them, or I'd give them like free tarot card readings. It's kind of what else have I got? I've got TikTok, but at the same time, I just post whatever I put on Instagram and TikTok. So you kind of like just recycle a lot of content. But I'm slowly getting there. I think I originally started focusing on my Instagram account, and I've realised I probably shouldn't put all my eggs in one basket. So I'm getting on as many platforms as possible.
You are very popular on Instagram. There's 144,000 followers. That's pretty impressive.
Honestly, I think so. When I first created the Instagram account, it must have been first year uni, so a good few years ago now. I just created it to like take witchy photos for myself, and just like as a way to like document my own stuff. And it wasn't until I started getting so many followers on there that I was like, okay, like maybe I should keep doing this. And then I think maybe March this year, I think, or February, I was on 4,000 followers, and I've now got it up to 148k within a few months.
That's impressive. That's really impressive.
I think I've well and truly figured out the Instagram algorithm. So I created a Instagram coaching guide where I've just like wrote down all the things I've done to get where I have today, and I've had a fair few people buying it, and they've seen some good results. So hopefully I can do the rest with TikTok and stuff now, but I've just got to figure them out.
Yeah. We tried it. Yeah, we tried TikTok. We decided it probably wasn't for us.
Yeah.
But
for the younger people.
What? Nothing to do with it.
There's quite a few people like now they've started like it's very much like a search engine now. They've got TikTok on. It's not literally not dances anymore. It's just like everything. So there's like lectures and education profiles, how to make certain, I don't know, recipes. And then there was another one where a guy, I think he was doing like talking about how to like fix things within your home and stuff. So there's all sorts. But it's so difficult and so hard work making content. It just takes so much time.
It does. Although we say we managed to do about an hour a week. Then there's normally this and jotted down our notes one evening, and that's it. That's us done. So if we were going to do a spell or an incantation to make Tallboy Radio more popular, what would that look like?
I don't know. I feel like I'd have to write one down for you and send it over. But like, I don't know. It could look however you want it to look. So like, it could just be as simple as getting a candle, writing down a manifestation on what you want to like achieve from the podcast, and then just burning it on top of the candle, and obviously keeping an eye on the fire to make sure nothing. You don't want any unwanted fires. But like, it could be as simple or as complex as you make it. Like, it could be as simple as doing the candle, or just writing down a little manifestation note and put it in your wallet or something, just carrying it with you. Like, possibilities are endless.
There you go. Just out of interest then, so obviously, you've got a lot of followers there, so there's obviously a lot of interest then in witchcraft. Is it something that is really commonly practiced, although not often talked about?
I don't know. I feel like the people who follow me are following me because of witchcraft, and honestly, only people who are interested in witchcraft are going to follow me. So like, I have no idea with the whole like with the grand scheme of things, but I don't know. I feel like witchcraft is very much becoming more and more popular. I don't know whether it's just mainstream and people are jumping on the trend or what, but I didn't jump on the trend. I was doing it beforehand. But like, I don't know. I feel like it definitely is getting more popular, especially with like how everyone's becoming more open to ideas and everything recently. I don't know. Probably.
Cool. And one thing you mentioned there as well there just before, I don't know if you heard that one, guys, because you did freeze a little bit. Tarot readings. Is that something you do a lot of?
Well, it wasn't up until recently. So I was talking to a friend on Instagram, and she did tarot card readings. And up until then I only really did them for myself and my friends and stuff. Because I don't know, I just felt like I know how to do them, I just didn't really have the confidence or how to like set it out, if that makes sense. So she walked me through how she does hers, and then I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. And it's actually been really popular. And also, all my fake accounts have been offering it. And I'm like, if they're sat there earning money from it, like, why am I not like jumping on it if they're sit there pretending to be me? But I've had quite a few, and yeah, it's been all right.
Cool. Have any of you guys got any other questions before we let Lily go?
Only other than, I don't know whether or not you answered. I might have frozen a minute ago. So the drape behind you? I can't help looking at that. What is that? Something? Where did you pick that up? Is that meaningful to you? What is it? How's it?
Not really. It's just like a tapestry, but I think you can get them all off of Amazon. There's all sorts of like different things, but I'm very much like, I like the whole like tapestry, bohemian, hippie side of things. So I've got them everywhere. But it kind of just brightens. It just
wonder
brightens
if
the wall up.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm sure there is some kind that has some meaning behind it, but I haven't got one of them yet.
Cool. Well, before we let anybody go, and before we close off this podcast, I have to give a shout out to our sponsors as well, who are, interestingly, they are doing some kind of fundraising at the moment. Go check out Ollie's Snacks on Instagram. They shared something earlier where they're doing some crowdfunding so you can own a piece of the company. But if you don't want to own a piece of the company, you can have some money off some of their products just by listening to this podcast. You can use the discount code tallboyradio, all one word, all capitals, if you are in the UK and you are making a purchase from their website. Go to ollies-ollies.com and you can get your olives, your nuts, your pretzels, and your chocolate-covered pretzels at a discount price, all thanks to your boys here at Tallboy Radio. So, thank you very much for joining us, Lily. I found this a very interesting episode. Have you guys got any final thoughts before she goes?
No, it's been intriguing actually, because I sort of, obviously my naive question to Adam right at the start of the podcast. I was intrigued as to where we were going to go. I was intrigued as to what witchcraft actually means for yourself, for our listeners, and I think I'm in more of an enlightened place in terms of understanding how it can impact you and the sort of things that it might impact on in your life. So no, I appreciate you coming on. Taking time and it's great to have. I love having guests on our podcast. It's fantastic.
I think especially with my Instagram, like my whole thing is teaching people about witchcraft and everything. So I'm glad that I managed to enlighten you on the whole thing and educated you a little bit.
100%.
You might be doing spells at some point. Who knows?
He will. We'll have a go when we get it.
Nice gambling spell.
Absolutely. Andy, any final thoughts from you?
First, I'd say I've watched a few of your videos and they are quite good. I like the style of them when you do little potions on Instagram and stuff. But yeah, I'm always painted as the negative guy. Don't know why, but
I feel like I need to do some more convincing to convince you.
Well, one thing I've been trying to do these last couple of years is be more positive. Not that I'm a negative person. I just do my thing and I enjoy myself. But it's just little things of like, we get a spider in the house. I try and catch it and let it go. And it's just little things like that. I'm trying to be oh yeah. Oh, I've squashed a few things like in the past, like mosquitoes and that. But yeah, I try and like just be more positive. And I don't meditate, but I have had a few like little quiet time moments where you just sit there and just take the world in and stuff like that. And I must admit, it's changed my outlook.
I'd say maybe if you're going to do one thing on the 1st of each month, if you blow cinnamon into the front door of your home, it brings in wealth and abundance for that month. So you could always give that one a go.
I could do it
if it works.
Yeah.
In 27 days time or whatever, or 17 days time.
Or you can do it now. It's up to you.
Okay, I'll do that.
Go for it.
Absolutely. I think we'll all be trying that one. You can never say no to a little bit of wealth. So do you want to give a shout out? Yeah, absolutely. Plus, I love cinnamon as well. I love Christmas, so I love cinnamon. I'm doing what I'm. No.
There's a quote that I think it's an awful film, and it's got, I think, is it The Rock in it or whatever? And he's like, cinnamon. I'm allergic to cinnamon. So every time somebody mentions cinnamon, I just think of that line. So I apologise. You love cinnamon. I hate cinnamon, dude.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely do. I'll get a cinnamon beer for next week. So do you want to give a shout out as well to your Instagram page? I will put it into the show notes so you can click on it and go straight to it. But do you want to give a shout out to it so people aren't confused by the fake accounts that are out there as well?
Okay, so my Instagram is Mysticprimrose. It is spelled, I can't figure out how to spell it now, but it's got no abbreviations or anything in. So if there's any others that have like extra I's or extra S's or gosh knows, however they're trying to like, I don't know, but it's Mysticprimrose, and pretty much all my other social media is under that as well. So
There you go.
spelled normally.
We will put, if you go into the show notes, you'll see you'll be able to click on it. It'll take you straight to the Instagram. So you'll be able to give it a follow there and have a look at some of the videos there that Andy was mentioning. So that just leaves it to me to say thank you very much for joining us. I've really enjoyed it. Again, like I say, I love having people on talking about stuff that I know very little about. Unfortunately, between the three of us, we know very little about a lot of things. So there's still plenty of scope for this podcast to go plenty of places just yet. So thank you very much, Lily. We always say this to every guest. If you ever want to come on again in the future, we'd love to have you on. Maybe next time you can do a tarot reading for us and find out what lies in our future.
Yeah, no, that sounds good.
It's awesome. So if you're out there listening, we just want to say thank you very much, and take care.